All right, we've come to the end of our discussion of the 5 early American wars. We're going to hit the Spanish American War now. Wars fought in 1898. And again, is one of those wars that kind of gets lost in American history. I think we can pull out a couple of significant things that are going to be happening during this time. So let's dive in. Quick facts about the war. The opponent, Spain, right? We do a great job in the United States early of naming our wars, right? Mexican-American War, that's the war with Mexico. Civil War, that's a war between the states. Spanish-American War, war against Spain. The war is going to be happening in really two places. It's going to be fought kind of around the island of Cuba, which is about 90 miles south of Florida. And it's also going to be fought in Asia around a group of islands called the Philippines, which were controlled by the Spanish. The war starts with the destruction of a ship called the USS Maine. It's one of our ships. It was off of the coast of Cuba, and the ship is blown up. People in the United States are told by the Spanish. This is one of the things about the war that's a little shady. There are people that say the Maine actually blew up because something happened internally to the ship, but that ship blowing up was enough to incite the people of the United States to wanting to go to war with Spain. Spain was in control of Cuba and didn't treat those people very nicely, and so their human rights violations were very well known, and so there was also this idea of not wanting a European power to be in a place of power so close to the United States. So there are several different reasons. 79 Americans are killed in combat. If you've been following along, that's the least of any of these conflicts. But like I said, it doesn't last a particularly long time. The causes of the war, again, one is the question of Cuba. I've got a map up here for you so you can see where Cuba is at. So very close to the United States, and also kind of the desire of the United States to start to spread its own little empire. And we're going to see we actually acquire foreign territory for the first time after the Spanish-American War. Famous names. The most famous name to come out of this war is going to be Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt is Assistant Secretary of the Navy when the war starts, but he resigns his commission to lead a group of troops into battle, a group known as the Rough Riders. And we've got an extra that we're going to do on the Rough Riders. Be the next video that is up. And so it makes Teddy Roosevelt famous. It's going to propel him to the vice presidency. He'll be selected as the guy at the upper right, William McKinley's vice president, following the Spanish-American War. When McKinley is assassinated, Roosevelt becomes president of the United States. The guy below President McKinley there is William Randolph Hearst. William Randolph Hearst is a journalist, was a newspaper owner, owned a lot of different newspapers across the United States, and he is almost given the blame for starting this war. His newspaper sensationalized what was going on with the explosion of the Maine, the situation in Cuba, and so what ends up happening is the American people basically are incited to call for action by their government there. He says that war's good for the newspaper business, right? People want to read those things. It sells newspapers. One of the most famous movies in American history, Citizen Kane, is kind of a thinly veiled life story of his. They changed the name, but the guy's job is the same. Home looks the same, that sort of thing. I've got a copy in the film library. It's a fantastic film. If you consider yourself a film buff, it's definitely one that you need to have seen. But he's in there as well. Famous battles. Like I said, here's a picture of the explosion of the Maine that is going to set off the war. Battle of Manila Bay. Manila is in the Philippines. That's in Southeast Asia. And so that's a naval battle between the Spanish and the Americans. And then the charge up San Juan Hill in Cuba. Teddy Roosevelt's going to, and his unit are going to charge up this hill, and it ends up making him famous. We have a local connection. William English is going to go up, participate in that battle with Teddy Roosevelt, and then come back to Scott County. A horse that actually was part of the battle, Santiago, is buried out at Englishton Park. And they got a really nice tombstone memorial to the horse. He was wounded in the battle, but English brought him back, and he lived out his life in Scott County. So a little Scott County connection to this particular war. The biggest difference you're going to see here, and you see these a little bit towards the end of the Civil War, but they become much more common in this conflict, and then the technology will step up even more by World War One. Is the machine gun, or what they call the Gatling gun. And so there were a whole bunch of different ways. I put some different pictures of them up there for you. A whole bunch of different ways that these guns, usually they had a crank, but the idea is you've got these guns that could shoot a high amount of bullets per minute to to greatly increase the number of bullets in the air and change the way wars are fought. Our next war, World War One, will be in trenches because of the dangers of machine guns. The war on the home front, like I said, the biggest deal here was the use of the media to shape the opinion of the American people. And so the big thing that you're hearing, and we actually have two extras with this one. I'm going to talk a little bit about yellow journalism and one of the others. Yellow journalism, today we would call clickbait. And so clickbait are these headlines and pictures that make you want to click right on the internet link. And so it gives advertising dollars to whatever news source you're using. And so yellow journalism was using headlines and kind of inflammatory stories to try and influence the collective opinion of the American people. So that's the big thing we see on the home front here. And then short and long-term effects, the war ends with the Treaty of Paris. The United States gets an empire, right? We get foreign stuff. We get the Philippines. Actually, we go to war in the Philippines, or their conflict in the Philippines right after this. We lose more people fighting in the Philippines than the Spanish-American War itself. The island of Guam and then Puerto Rico become part of the United States. Spain gets $20 million for compensation for lost territory. Teddy Roosevelt gets famous, and like I said, the United States gets its empire. And so as we move into the 20th century, we're going to be an even bigger player on the world stage, and that role of the United States as a world leader is only going to continue as we see World War One and World War II hit. And so that's a little bit about the Spanish-American War.